Welcome to Lever Fanatics. On this episode, I feel the need to address the elephant in the room. Why use a lever machine? If you look through all of the YouTube coffee channels, you'll see some amazing electric pump-driven machines. Many are truly beautiful and works of art. So why would you forego the honor of owning a Rocket or a Marzocco to get one of these? The truth is, I could make a 2-hour video answering this question. But since I want to get to making some coffee with an excellent co-side roaster, I'm going to break down my diatribe into a series. So today, I'm only going to feature one reason. But I think it's a big one, maybe even the biggest. And that is that a lever espresso machine won't disappoint you, even if you are a total beginner. Nothing ruins your enthusiasm for a hobby than spending lots of money on equipment and countless hours learning, and when you finally get everything set up, you can't even pull a decent shot of espresso. It makes you want to toss everything and go back to, okay, maybe it's not that bad. But I speak from experience. I fell in love with espresso after a trip to Europe and sampling some of what to me was the best tasting espresso in Italy. When I came home, the first thing I did was look for a way to make this amazing drink at home. My search led me to purchase a Gaggia Classic. I paired it with a grinder and off I went. I must have made more than a dozen espressos on the first day. The problem was the quality. I tried all types of grind settings and temp pressure. I timed my shots. I weighed my shots. And I should mention that the espresso I had in Italy came from the free continental breakfasts at the mom-and-pop hotels we stayed at and from random street-side cafes. I'm sure this was not even the best that Italy had to offer, but it was still better than anything I could get out of my Gaggia. Yet all was not lost. In about 1 in every 10 or so shots, I would get one that was pretty good, that came somewhat close to what I was looking for. But that elation would be replaced by frustration as I made another 9 terrible shots. There was only so much disappointment that I could take, and my primary goal of making espresso at home was to be able to drink good espresso in the morning. I really didn't want to experiment. So I did what any sane novice would do. I bought a super automatic machine. This one ground the coffee, filled the basket, tamped, and made espresso. The quality was surprisingly decent. Not great, but unlike my classic, it was 100% consistent. I was getting average, maybe slightly above average, espresso every morning without any undrinkable shots. So that's what I did for several years. But in the back of my mind, I always wondered if there was a better way. And the better way was this lever espresso machine. This is the Ponte Vecchio Lusso with 2 brew groups. I don't want to get into a review of this particular machine. I'll give you a tour of it in another video. But once I got this machine, I discovered how forgiving and consistent a lever espresso machine can be. To put it simply, a good lever espresso machine won't disappoint you. They are very forgiving, both for the beginner as well as the advanced beginner like me. What makes them so forgiving? I think it is the nature of the lever itself. Let me explain. To get a perfect shot, you need fresh espresso that has been expertly roasted and blended, the proper grind, consistent and well-executed puck. This is accomplished by distribution and good tamping technique, the proper water temperature, and the right brew pressure. And brew pressure is just the speed at which the water flows through your puck. Ideally, we want the water to contact the coffee long enough to extract the essential oils and flavors, but not too long that we extract the bitter flavors. On the flip side, we don't want the water to flow through so fast, which would under-extract our coffee and leave it tasting sour. In most electronic pump-driven machines, this brew pressure is set. So to change the amount of contact time, you need to adjust the grind size, or maybe even puck preparation and temp pressure. If you could guarantee that each shot you made was with perfectly freshly roasted beans, ground to the perfect consistency, and distributed and tamped with the perfect technique, well then, a set brew pressure would be fine. But in the real world, we are working with beans that are aging and changing with temperature and humidity, grinders that don't always produce the perfect grind, or maybe our setting is off slightly. Our puck prep might be less than ideal, and tamp pressure inconsistent or just sloppy, especially in the morning. So if some of these settings are off and you use the same brew pressure each time, then your shot will taste off too. But a lever espresso machine allows you to vary the speed at which the water passes through your puck. And I have to say, even for a beginner, it becomes a very intuitive process. After a few uses, you get the hang of how much pressure you need to get a great taste. If you notice the coffee is pre-infusing slowly, just hold the lever down a little longer. Or if you get quick pre-infusion, start your brew earlier. On some levers, you can vary the brew pressure based on how much force you exert on the lever. On this spring lever, I can do quarter or half presses, or even add an additional full press. It's this control of the pressure or speed at which the water flows that gives you control over the extraction time. You can easily overcome many of the imperfections with coffee freshness, grind consistency, and puck preparation. And it all happens rather naturally. Even at 7 a.m., your foggy brain knows when a shot is running too slow or too fast and how to manipulate the lever to compensate. All right, enough talk. Let's pull a shot. In every episode, I try to feature a different coffee roaster. I love discovering great regional roasters, so if you have suggestions, please feel free to put them down in the comments below. Today's roast is from the Santa Cruz Coffee Roasting Company. It's their espresso blend. This 40-year-old company out of Santa Cruz, California, uses 100% Arabica beans. It's also organic. Of course, everything in California is organic. I found that with these smaller baskets, I do well with 14 grams of espresso beans. This scale is from Amazon and is very affordable. It works great, and I haven't felt the need to upgrade to anything fancier. There's a link in the description below to this excellent scale. I like a zero retention grinder that can do single doses of coffee. Zero retention means that the coffee doesn't get retained in the burrs or shoots. So if you put 14 grams of beans in, you get 14 grams of ground coffee out. The niche zero is great, but it's also on the expensive side and can be hard to get. There are some other more budget-friendly grinders or just easier to get grinders that do just as good a job as this. And again, I'll put some links in the description below. I've tried a lot of distribution techniques, but I found that the best is simply using a toothpick or needle to swirl the grounds around and break up any clumps. Now, my tamping technique is heavy, I'll admit it. Someday I'll learn to tamp light, but for now I've tried many different pressures, and for my machine, the most consistent has been a very heavy tamp. My typical lever technique is to hold down the lever for about 10 seconds and hopefully see a few drops come out. This is my pre-infusion. I'm not convinced that a timer is totally necessary, but I think I've been influenced by all those other YouTube coffee channels of electric pump-driven machines where everything is about shot time. I guess I just feel more professional using a timer. I then do 2 quarter to half presses. These are known as Fellini moves, and then gently release the lever. Just before it reaches the top, I pull it all the way down for one more full press. Now, it's easy to control this. I could simply do one pull for less but stronger tasting espresso, or I could omit the Fellini moves if I wanted it stronger as well. Although I do have a theory that the Fellini actually helps my puck stay together by compressing it. I have no proof except that my results are more consistent when I do a Fellini than when I don't. So let's look at this Santa Cruz coffee espresso. It looks wonderful. As for taste, this is definitely a medium roast, which is lighter than traditional espresso. It also tastes less smoky or dark, maybe a tad more nutty than chocolate. but no sour flavors whatsoever, which is good for me. I really like this blend. It's a nice change from the more traditional Italian flavors which I normally drink. I feel a little more refined drinking it. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for indulging me in my enthusiasm for why I love Lever Espresso machines. Remember to like and subscribe. It'll really help the channel and help us reach more fanatics about espresso and Lever Espresso machines. I'd like to know what you think about a Lever Espresso machine's forgiveness, especially for newcomers to making espresso at home. Have you ever been disappointed by a Lever Espresso machine or any coffee machine? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And remember, the best espresso is the one you pour.